We are joined by David Latona with Demco. David, kind of give us an update on where we stand on power outages for Demco customers.
Sure thing, Karen. Thanks so much for having me on. We, of course, at the peak of our outage, the highest number from that day when the storm passed through Hurricane Ida, it was upwards of 107,000 meters that Demco serves that were without power. At this time, we're working through, we've gone through the assessment phase, which is that first day or so after, and have begun lighting up folks, getting folks turned back on, doing things like in our control center where we can switch load from one side to the next to restore someone without having boots on the ground and in harm's way right after the storm. So we're able to do that and get about 30% of those folks back on. So that process you'll see, or the progress you'll see in a lot of areas, you can tell where that damage was the worst from the storm coming through. And a lot of what we're seeing is Livingston Parish and St. Helena Parish took a large hit, as well as East Feliciana Parish.
Okay. So where is your biggest section of outage right now then?
Right now it is Livingston Parish. Now, it is a larger number of outages, but that's also representative of the parish that we have the most members present. So even though it's a large number of, we do understand that other parishes, the 6 others that we serve, we're also heavily hit, and we're working in all 7 of those parishes.
And for people who don't know, because Entergy is probably the bigger one that serves a lot more people, so for people who aren't familiar, which parishes does Demco serve?
All right, it is West Feliciana, East Feliciana, St. Helena Parish, Tangipahoa, East Baton Rouge Parish, Ascension Parish, and Livingston Parish.
Okay, but the biggest hit's been Livingston, St. Helena, and...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and certainly those folks, of course, in East Baton Rouge did take a hit, just not as serious as those in Livingston Parish. But our restoration plan is system-wide until certain areas become under control by our local staff. Then we'll shift those out-of-state crews to the other districts that are heavily hit. And when we start to be able to spread out a little more and work safer, it makes it more efficient for the guys.
So when can people expect power back on? Or what's the process, I guess?
So the process for restoration has always been and always will be going from the large to the small. And that doesn't mean someone more important than the other. What it means is the most, those closest to those substations. And it makes sense when you have a circuit that comes out of a substation. If it is damaged, so there's zero energy going through this circuit, if I fix the homes, the damage on our infrastructure to the last home on that circuit, it may be repaired, but there's still not energy going through that line. So even if I make that repair, that person is not going to be energized until we make that repair starting from that substation. So we go from large to small, and we can only estimate, of course, but we know that in 2008, at that time, Hurricane Gustav was the worst natural disaster to hit Baton Rouge. Now, we've had 2 pretty terrible events since then, and even another in Hurricane Isaac, but the flood of 2016 was terrible. And then, of course, Isaac was terrible, and now this one, which may even surpass what Gustav had. Now, Gustav, at the time, that took us upwards of 2 weeks to get everybody who could receive power. In other words, they're not flooded or unable to get an energized meter. We were able to get everyone restored within 2 weeks.
Okay.
And there are areas still in Livingston Parish where floodwaters exist, but also keep in mind, not all of those bodies of water have completely crested. So some of those are still coming up, and there are areas to homes and businesses that may still be inaccessible to us. We can't even get to them at this point. So, of course, to consider the safety of the community at large and our workers, we cannot energize certain areas because they're underwater.
Okay. So we're talking possibly upwards of 2 weeks at the most? or possibly even more?
Well, when we estimate for the entire system, of course, there are people that are coming on now. There are people that were energized yesterday. So we wouldn't want to give an estimate that says everyone is out until this longest period of time. But I would say 2 to 3 weeks for those folks that are facing longer extended outages. And like I mentioned, those are those areas that have sustained the most damage, like Livingston and St. Helena and even East Feliciana as well.
Okay, and I guess that's what I meant, that obviously you guys are working daily, so there are the people who are sitting here and asking, hey, when will we be on? I guess what I'm saying is that the most, it sounds like from what you're saying, the most is going to be about 2 weeks?
Yes, and when you're dealing with, of course, tens of thousands of folks that are out, the answer for each individual member is certainly a different answer. But those, like I mentioned, some of them, many of them are coming on today. And then even more are going to come on tomorrow. So not everyone is going to see that longest or that worst case scenario.
And do you have a current number of outage compared to from when it happened to now?
Yes, right now we are right at about 75,000 members that are without power.
So you've gotten almost, 25,000 back on?
It's great progress. But just like we always say, Karen, we're not resting. We're not stopping until every last member is back on.
Of course. Is there anything else you want to tell the people?
There certainly is. We'd appreciate the patience, but also remember this. The more we can clear the roads for our emergency personnel, that's those fire and ambulance and police, and then for utility workers, both communications, electricity, and the like, the more we can clear the roads, the faster this restoration will be, and also the safer this restoration will be.
And last question, I've seen a lot of crews coming in from out of town. Are any of those helping with your restorations as well? I should say Demco's restorations.
Sure. Yes, they are. Absolutely. We have local contract crews that started with us immediately, of course, because they live here. They did not have to mobilize somewhere else. We have out-of-state contract crews. We also have cooperative endeavors with other electric cooperatives, and we have sent out that call, and hundreds are coming in. Hundreds are already here, actually, hundreds more coming to aid in this restoration process. And the more hands we can get on the job, the faster, more efficient, and even the safer we can be in this process.
Okay, sir. Is there anything else?
That's it. Thank you so much.